Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host El Young. Right, we are here with the brilliant Matt Knowles of Heirs of Isildur and in Symmetry Creation. So, welcome, Matt.
How you doing, El? Thanks a lot for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. It's been a pleasure, especially over these last couple of days when we've been sort of like talking about like different things about not only Heirs of Isildur and but the comic books that you write. So, uh, right, what do you do within the band and in symmetry creation?
So, Heirs of Isildur, I am the main man, the mad scientist behind it, so to speak. That's what the late Corey Steger, who was one of the other musical partners in it, used to say about me. But I basically do all the crafting of the songs and the direction and all that. There's been quite a few people that have come in and done work on the project with me. Obviously, my partner in Symmetry Creations, which we'll talk about here in a minute, Steph Cannon, works on a production side with me. But we've had a lot of guest musicians. Like I said, Corey Steger, who was the original guitarist in Under Oath, was on both of the albums. Unfortunately, he passed away 11 days after recording his tracks for the most recent album. We've had Zach Leeser and Brian Eckerman from Scars of the Flesh. And then Fabio Grimdrop from Norway's Trollfest does a guest appearance on there. And then, like I said, there's quite a few. Kyle Weston, amazing violin player Andrew Polo also took part. But like I said, it's so even though I have the brainchild for what's going to happen with the music, without all the other pieces and parts that come in, the music wouldn't be what it is. It's kind of like you can go bake a cake, but if you don't have sugar and icing, that cake isn't going to taste very good. So, I could bake the cake, but I have to have the right ingredients to be able to make that cake actually be what you really want to go and sample.
Cool. So let's get back. Let's dive into some questions.
Sure.
As a kid, what were you basically listening to? Basically listening to.
Well, I was always into 80s music like any kid of my generation was, but I was always looking for the hardest music that was out there. I grew up as a child of the 80s, but when the people that were listening to the hard edge at that time were looking at, say, Metallica and Anthrax, I was the kid in the background that was listening to Cryptic Slaughter and DRI and Dead Brain Cells. And then from there, that begat listening to bands like At the Gates, and always looking for the heaviest thing was out there. At the Gates, Malevolent Creation, which then begat, always listening to bands nowadays, say like bands like Inferi and Mordant Rapture and Stort Rain, always looking for the heaviest stuff that's out there to go along with the other things I listen to, like folk metal, Elevite, and different bands like that.
Cool. So basically, who really got you into listen to all of this like heavier stuff?
Well, I was always someone that was going to be looking for the heavier things that were out there, but one of my older brothers, Mark, he was always, at the time shoveling me the heaviest stuff he could find, and he got me into the heaviest things I could find then, and I just kind of built on it from there.
Cool. So after you basically started to listen to all the heavy stuff, who basically inspired you to become a musician?
Well, back in the day, I had a friend of mine in high school that was like, "Hey, we should start a band," and I'm like, "Okay, I guess I should learn an instrument." And we started this band, little high school, little grind band, and it wasn't really the best band that was out there, but not how many high school bands are. But that kind of inspired me to start playing back in the day, and that band just kind of evolved and evolved. There were multiple bands that had the same name at the time, and so like I had a high school band that had the name, and then that band broke up, and then had a new band, and that band had the name, and that band Royal Anguish, the lineage from that, there was 5 CDs that were released. There were some pretty heavy hitters that came through through that time. We had Sean Tibbetts, who's the current bass player for Camelot, who's been in Camelot for the last decade or more. that was in that band alongside me. Had a lot of fun in that, but then I took some time off. I was tired of the industry, and that kind of turned into me starting Heirs of Isildur as a musical project, and that turned into everything else, which was the comics and so on.
Yeah, cool. So I was going to ask you. You sort of like touched on on some of the bands that you were in when you were younger. But was there any other bands that you were in before coming to Heirs?
So the band that I was in was called Royal Anguish. There were two different bands named Royal Anguish, but Royal Anguish played for I don't know, probably 8, 10 years, 12 years. The most influential period we had was we were signed to a label called Fear Dark out of Holland, and released a couple albums. Did one short tour in Europe. That tour actually was pretty pivotal because we were on the tour with Elevite, which was their very first tour they ever did. And because of the way that some of the logistics actually worked out, we were staying with the record label, record label runners. We traveled over there, and the first boxes of merchandise for Elevite for their very first album, their very first shirts and all that came to their house while we were there. So we actually were in possession of Elevite's first album before the band was, and we took the opportunity to make sure we pranked them and put on their shirts and listened to their CDs and took a bunch of pictures and sent it to the band. And we're like, hey, your stuff is great. And they were like, who are these idiots? Who are these idiots with our stuff? And then we went and met them the next day and had a grand old time.
Cool. So, what have you, especially over these last couple of years, what have you been up to? I such as like writing for Heirs of Isildur, and with in symmetry creation.
So it's interesting the way that where I'm at right now, where it kind of came from. So when I got back into writing, I decided I wanted to play metal still, but I wanted to have there be something more. I wanted there to be a side story. I wanted there to be an aura to it. And I looked at the way that some of my writing was coming together, and I was going back to some old material that was unreleased from back in the day, and I was recrafting lyrics. And I'm like, well, this is kind of like what steampunk is, where you're taking something old, refurbishing it, and making it new. And so that was the basis for the look. If you look at the Heirs of Isildur albums, there's always a steampunk vibe to it. The main character in the story is named Michael Isildur. And so a short story that was written alongside of the Heirs music turned into an ebook that then turned into a comic series, released the first album, which was called The Crossroads Conundrum. And very shortly after that, I met Steph Cannon, who was a comic writer herself. And she and I vibed really well. And we knew that the missing piece, the missing knowledge I needed to be able to move farther in what I was doing in content creation, she held, and she kind of knew that that was the same thing from my side. And we decided to merge our efforts together and turn that into In Symmetry Creations. And that's what we do all of our stuff under. So the Heirs of Isildur music is underneath the umbrella of In Symmetry Creations. The Heirs of Isildur comic, which we have the first arc, which is The Crossroads Conundrum, which is an 11-issue arc that we turned into a graphic novel. We just released a one-shot called Nightmare Scenario, and we are currently working on the very next arc, which is called The Perilous Prospects, which, as someone who's listened to the album, you see the first 3 songs on the album all have the subtitle Perilous Prospects. So you'll see that that's a kind of a part of where we're going for the Perilous Prospects arc. We also did a medieval series called Tales from Nocturnia. Steph and I co-write that. We did multiple Kickstarters for that, released multiple issues, and then did a trade paperback, which pulled all the pieces together into one book. And that is the reason why there is on the album, the new album, Heirs of Isildur versus Tales from Nocturnia, why there's songs for both of those titles. As we're doing the Kickstarters, we wanted to have new music for every Kickstarter. And so we did 3 for Tales from Nocturnia, which meant we had a basis for music, and started ended up with 5 songs. And we're like, well, what are we going to do with 5 songs for Heirs and 5 songs for Nocturnia? Let's make it like Marvel versus Capcom and see which side wins.
Yeah, cool. I would like to ask you about where does the name Heirs of Isildur come from?
So Heirs of Isildur, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. If we stepped out into my living room, you would see that I I've got all the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit Legos on a giant 16-foot shelf in my living room, all LED backlit. I've got shields and medieval banners and whatnot hanging in my living room as well. Just a big fan of Lord of the Rings. And, as it's no secret in the metal world that there's a lot of bands that'll take their name from Lord of the Rings lore. Amon Amarth, Morgoth, Cirith Ungol, those are all, phrases from the Lord of the Rings lore. And I was actually really surprised to find out that the phrase Heirs of Isildur had never been used by anyone in any way in the content creation world. So that was where the name came from originally. And well, if people ask us and we'll do Comic-Cons, they're like, is Heirs of Isildur, is it based on Lord of the Rings or is it medieval? And we're like, no, Tales from Nocturnia is the one. If you're a medieval fan, you want to go look at Tales from Nocturnia. Heirs of Isildur, we crafted that into, that's actually the name of the main character, the shopkeeper, the watchmaker, the time guy. His last name is Isildur in the series. So, and then he's got a bunch of people that have come through time portals that are there with him. And so we kind of say that they are his heirs. We call them the heirs, and he is Michael Isildur. So that's our interpretation of Heirs of Isildur.
Cool. So, would you say that there is sort of like a fantasy type of thing running through the music of Heirs of Isildur?
Yeah, I would say if you look at the lyrics, especially the first album, on the Crossroads Conundrum, that one really works hand in hand with the story, where all the songs are like origin stories for different characters. So there'll be a spot in the story that'll say, hey, you want to know more about this character Shiver, go listen to the song Shiver. And that there's going to be more of a backstory for that character there, so you can learn more about him. Yeah, in the comics, there's definitely a fantasy vibe. You're talking about time travel and different kinds of fantasy elements like that. With Tales from Nocturnia, it's think Dungeons and Dragons, World of Warcraft, Game of Thrones. So there's definitely a fantasy vibe there. And lyrically, especially on the new album, you're talking about on the Tales from Nocturnia side, you're talking about events that happen in the kingdom of Nocturnia. Versus their arch rivals in Sinisteria, and there's definitely some elements that play directly into their story in the song lyrics.
Cool. So, would you be up to doing something else with Heirs of Isildur, like bringing in new genres to the band, or are you just sticking with like the fantasy type of thing?
Well, I definitely am always somebody that's going to write heavy music. One of the things we're able to do at the very end of this album's production that was very beneficial was we were able to work with Andrew Polo, who is an absolutely amazing violin player. And we've definitely talked about, the next time there's going to be some more music that we definitely would like to try and work more with Andrew, because his violin playing and the way that he crafts music works very well with us. All of the stuff that he wrote was actually done just like this on video chat, where I would be on, Steph would be on from California, and he would jump on, and we'd have rough tracks, and he would sit there and record on his side, and he would actually shoot some stuff over. I'd put it in the mix on this side, and it was a very fun and productive set of sessions we had with him, and definitely we all vibed really well, and so I would love to see that happen more. One thing I would like to do more, but it's all on me to try and make it happen, is I'd like to write more soundtrack style music. If you listen to both albums, they each have one song that definitely is designed as soundtrack. There's no guitars, no vocals. On the first album, the song was called Transcendence, and on this album, the song is called Nightmare Scenario. So it's much more like that soundtrack, big epic vibe to it. And I would love to write more stuff like that, because I'm really into soundtrack music like Two Steps from Hell and things like that, where you just hear it and you're just like, oh man, this is so epic and huge. So I'd love to get more of that vibe into the music where possible.
Cool. Now, we were sort of like talking just before we came on live, that you have like you've got like the new album now, like the Versus album. There's another previous release prior to this one. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So like we said, the first album is called The Crossroads Conundrum. It's a 12-song album. Corey Steger was the main my main musical partner on that album. He's on 11 of the 12 tracks on that, either doing guitar solos or doing power metal vocals. Great guy. Miss him. Like I said, he passed away 11 days after recording the tracks for the most recent album. But I digress in that line. But the first album was all Heirs of Isildur music with the Heirs of Isildur comics. And the songs linked in. There's a few music videos up there on YouTube. There's a song called Lovelorn Betrayal, which is actually the two storylines, Heirs of Isildur and Tales from Nocturnia, actually do have a couple of common links. And the song is from the Heirs of Isildur album, and it's a section out of the Heirs of Isildur story, but it's actually got comic art in there that actually is where Tales from Nocturnia spins off into its own story. So if you go up onto YouTube, you can take a look at that, and all the art from that video is actually a part of the Heirs of Isildur and Tales from Nocturnia lore that's there. That one was really fun. Once we got done with that album and it was released, that was released before Steph and I started in Symmetry Creations. And we always knew we were going to have some more music that was going to be involved in what we did with in the comic world. But it just took a little while because that album was released at the end of 2017. It just took a little while for us to say, okay, now is the time to actually get down to brass tacks. Now is the time we need to be getting this album produced and getting it finished. And it was a really intense grind to get that done while also working on comics, because it's like working on two different projects with having to pull on two different parts of your brain to be able to get those things working. And being a comic writer and being the art director for what we do, I don't do the art, but doing the art direction, putting the pages together, making sure that the books are as they need to be, while writing multiple titles, because we also have an all ages kids title called Misfits Clubhouse that's about to, we have the first little piece for that coming out on Scout Comics. It's actually out now. We're doing a one-shot full issue of that as well. So having, working on music and steampunk comics and medieval comics and all ages comics and metal music and promoting it all together and doing Comic-Cons, it gets to be a grind. So we're glad the album is out now, and there'll definitely be more music at some point, but who the heck knows when that's going to be, because this album is just coming out right now. So
So what's in the future for in Symmetry Comics creations? Are you doing anything? Is anything coming up in the future?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So like I said, right now we the next few things that are going to be happening for InSim on the content creation side, we do have the first issue of Misfits Clubhouse, which is, like I said, an all ages story. I'll actually show you. So here's a book from Scout Comics called Frontiers. It's a variety book, and this little wagon right here, that is our little kids. That's Miki, Stig, and their friends Fairy and Sloth, and they go around having their little adventures and their little fantasy play, and we're working on the first full-length issue for that one, called Pinball Madness, where the kids get in the fantasy world and get trapped in a pinball machine and have to figure out how to get their way out. We're working with a great artist from India named Raheel Mohsen on that one. So that one we're working on, and that's going to be going to Kickstarter here very soon. We're also working on the next issue for Heirs of Isildur, which is going to be the first part of the Perilous Prospects, working with two amazing artists out of Brazil, Alessandro and Bruno, and they are putting together some excellent art. Steph and I feel like that's going to be the best Heirs project, the best Heirs comic release that we've ever had. From the musical side, we will have vinyl versions of the album coming out. We are hoping to have it by the end of the year, but it's sounding like it's going to be January before they are actually in our hands, just because the global market is so backed up when it comes to vinyl production. We're going to have two different versions. There's going to be an orange and green splatter vinyl version, and then a black, blue, and red galaxy version of that. So we'll have those two different versions of the vinyl out, hopefully soon, for Heirs of Isildur versus Tales from Nocturnia. Next weekend, Steph and I are going to be in West Palm Beach, Florida, as guests at PalmCon, which is a Comic-Con that's down there. 2 weeks later, I will be representing us at Renninger Steampunk Festival in Mount Dora, Florida. It's a show we always do. Then we have a couple of smaller shows. There's a Black Friday show and some other shows we're trying to work out. And then starting back into next year, we'll definitely have another steampunk show. We actually have 2 steampunk shows lined up, one in Florida, one in Atlanta, Georgia, to start the year. And we're trying to get some other Comic-Cons lined up as well. So hopefully I don't know if we're going to be in the UK anytime soon, but we sure the heck would love to be able to get across the pond and represent what we do over there. So if you got any connections, see what we can do.
Well, unfortunately, I don't. Unfortunately,
Yeah, that's find some, man. Let's
yeah,
do it.
yeah. I am slowly making connections. I am slowly making connections. So you got to watch the space type of thing. So, all right. You talked about like the Comic Cons coming up over the next few months, and so after all the any bit of spare time, would you be playing any gigs or tours or
The
like
only
to
the only tours that we do are, like I said, Steph and I do stuff on the Comic Con side.
yeah
For where we represent the comics and the music, like the show we just did last weekend, we were guests at Daytona Beach Comic Con. That also served as our CD release party. Um,
yeah
the band is all something that just exists in the studio space. I don't think there's been people that have asked if there's ever going to be any live Heirs of Isildur shows, and I'm never going to say never, but I would think it would take a lot, and it would have to be the exact right venue for that to happen, because we are really busy on the comic side creating that content and getting out there and actually finding ways to promote the music through our Comic-Con appearances,
yeah
that I just don't think that there's a realistic time to be able to actually go get the musicians together to do it. Like I said, doesn't mean that it would never happen, but it would have to be the right people at the right time and the right venue for it for us to actually undertake that, because we know how much time it would take, and there's just not a lot of time with all the other things that we're doing out there in that content creation world.
yeah yeah. I was like thinking, would you just play at the Comic Cons, or just like when the time comes at the right time? Do like a little mini tour type thing, or just purely at Comic Cons?
Uh, like I said, we'd be open to doing whatever. And I know Steph well enough to know that if we ever had something where there was going to be any kind of musical tour, we would definitely set it up to where it was music on the stage and an image creation booth in the back with all of our merch and comics. Cause we've got, shirts, and we work with leather workers and woodworkers. We actually had a woodworker. These are actually engraved wooden stickers. We've had woodworkers work with us. We've had a leather worker named GB Leatherworks that have done all kinds of cool themed merch for our products, leather gauntlets, dragon masks, little baby dragon keychains. So, we have a wide variety of merchandise offerings. So if we ever did do something where there was a live version, we would surely turn it into a hybrid thing where we would have the merch on one side and the music on the other. But that's definitely not anything that's in the near future plans, if at all.
Yeah, cool. After you've done all that with all the new with the comic side of things, would you be writing new content not only just for the comics, but for Heirs of Isildur?
Yeah, we would definitely the way that the music or the comics is handled is whatever comes to mind that just gets notated there, and we just see what happens later on with it. Like Steph and I have got a sheet of 25, 30 different comic story ideas that can either be its own comic or like one-off pieces of comics that we just have a Google sheet, and we just go up, and I've got access to it. She has access to it. We have it on our phones, have it on our computers, and we'll go and throw ideas in there. And I do the same thing with music, where if I have a musical idea, I'll go and I'll record it. If I have a lyrical idea, I'll go and I'll note it down on a Google sheet. And when the time comes to produce it and turn it into something more, we will. Like just Heirs of Isildur versus Tales from Nocturnia is a good example. We did the Kickstarters for Tales from Nocturnia 1, 2, and 3, and I wrote little clips that went with the Kickstarter video, and they weren't turned into full songs at the time. But we had the little clip of it, and the first one for Tales from Nocturnia was done in 2019. So that clip sat there until it was time to turn it into a full song, and at that time I pulled it back up. We recrafted it, turned it into a full song. We wrote the lyrics to it, and kind of went from there. So we fully expect that the same thing will happen with any subsequent new music or new comic ideas. We'll just notate it and then see when it's time to actually craft it into its full thing.
Yeah. So, if anybody's got any questions, I know it's I know it's basically three people in the chat. So, if you've got any questions for Matt, feel free to ask, and we'll see if we can actually answer them for you. So, anyway, so have you got any websites, or are you on social media, or
Yeah,
so where people can find you?
absolutely. And I can go and I'll put them in the chat as well so people can take a look from there. So if you go to insymmetrycreations.com, that's our main umbrella site. And there's links to all of the things that we do there. Heirs of Isildur's got a page there. Tales from Nocturnia, Misfits Clubhouse, all have pages there. There's links to the videos, links to the albums. Our store is tinyurl.com/insim shop. You've got all the music, comics, shirts, the fun little merchandise, the stickers, things like that are up there. On Instagram, it is at Insymmetry Creations. On Facebook, it is /insim. And then on Twitter, it is at Insim Creations. But if you're like, hey, I just want to go find Heirs of Isildur, you can actually look up Heirs of Isildur as Heirs of Isildur on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. But just know that the main focus for all the things that we do, whether it be the music that we do or the comics, Steph is also a horror movie reviewer and columnist for. She's done a lot of freelance work for the Shutter Network, and she just did an article for Fangoria. There's going to be links to all those things up under the Insymmetry Creations umbrella from there as well. So if you go there, you'll be able to get all the links, the umbrella out, and reach out from that point.
Cool. So, probably this is probably going to be the last question from me.
Sure.
So, is there any advice? Any advice for people who want to not only become a musician but wanting to become say, for instance, a comic book writer?
So I think I would say an umbrella for any of those things is have realistic expectations. Understand when you start that you are not going to be the one that's going to go change the world with the very first thing you do. Get your feet wet and find some quick wins. If you are a writer, don't feel like you have to go write a book and have it be this big magnum opus to as your very first thing. The way that Steph and I met, she was becoming well versed in writing short comics, 1 to 5 page comics, and she was getting a lot of accolades out there in the industry. She actually had a 2-page comic that she wrote. Got picked up by a publisher and put into one of their anthologies. And that was a springboard for her to she was on panels at San Diego Comic-Con and WonderCon Anaheim, which are 2 of the biggest ones in the country. If you're a musician, I would say, don't worry about writing a full album. Understand your instrument, understand how to craft music, and write a single song. Get one song good. Because if you don't have one good song, you're not going to have 10 good songs. Start with one good song first. Understand what it takes to be the best of what you want to be. If you're not listening to the best music out there and understanding what those people are doing from a writing perspective, from a production perspective, if you're not reading the best materials and studying the best writers out there in the industry you're in, you cannot expect to become the best if you don't even know what that baseline for best is. So, and don't be afraid to reach out. This is a day and age of easy, instant access to everyone. Don't be afraid to reach out to people that are people that you look up to and ask them questions. Steph and I, we've run 5 Kickstarters in the past couple of years. We raised almost $38,000 for our different projects on those Kickstarters. And before we ever started, we reached out to a couple of our friends in the industry that were doing that and were successful. And we were very, I don't want to say surprised, we were very pleased by the level of interest that they had in answering the questions and helping us raise up. And the phrase in the comics industry is a rising tide raises all ships. And, if everybody's doing good, how can anybody be having a bad time about it? And if you're imparting your knowledge onto the people that are coming up. You're basically giving back because somebody helped you up when you needed it at the beginning as well. So don't be afraid to get advice, and don't be afraid to listen, and don't be afraid to give advice once you start raising your level up as well.
Cool. So I just had a thought of another question. You said that you got like running through not only in Symmetry, but also through Heirs of Isildur, like sort of like a steampunk type vibe, like throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's not as much steampunk in the music as there is in the comic and in the pictures and the imagery.
Yeah.
Like I'll show you. I've actually got, just off camera, I've got a rack that's got 10 top hats over here. So whenever we're at live shows, we're always in steampunk, always have that kind of vibe going on. The comics for Heirs of Isildur very much happen in a steampunk environment, with that kind of stuff and crazy machinery and things like that, and watches and clocks. Because I really vibe with that vibe of creativity, of taking something that someone may think isn't worth anything and refurbishing it and making it something new and valuable. I've been able to see that in the music that's there. It's a fun environment to be in. Like I said, we've been guests at steampunk shows. I'll be one in a few weeks, and we have one we're going to be at in Atlanta in 2022. And it's a fun environment because it's classy, it's fun. Like the phrase in the steampunk world is steampunk is when goths found the color brown. So there's a lot of like goth look to it, but it's brown and it's classy and it's fun, and there's laughter to it. And a lot of times in the metal world, people want to get so dark and so like about things that they forget that we're all just having fun with it. I mean, that's why I like bands like Trollfest and whatnot, because you can't listen to Trollfest or Fintroll without cracking a smile. You know what I'm saying? Even though they're heavy, there's humor to it, and there's whimsy to it, and that's part of the thing I like about steampunk, is that there is, when you go out there, you can have somebody that's 15 or 60 at the steampunk festival, all having the same fun. It's not something where it's only reserved for this small group of people. Everybody go out there and dress up and have fun and be classy and put on your tuxes or your vests or your ties and your steampunk hats and go have fun with it and make crazy time travel contraptions and all that. And then, who doesn't want to have fun with stuff? I mean, even just talking about it, you're smiling, and that's why we like it, because there's fun to it, and it's a way to be able to bring this fun fantasy element and have it alongside of the heavier music that we do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would see it in the last, myself personally, in the last 10 years or so, I've started to get heavily. Well, I wouldn't say heavily, but I've started to get into steampunk, and I've started to buy starting to buy like little items of steampunk, and it's steampunk sort of like it's got like you said, it's a bit of fun. Yeah. It's a bit of fun to actually. And some of the costumes that some of the people wear is absolutely amazing, and even some of the like the goggles, the hats, all the bits and pieces. It's absolutely amazing how they actually craft it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so we have a leather worker that works with us that he likes to craft us little bits and pieces, and like these goggles right here on this top hat are actually all handmade by our leather worker. And so it's really cool to be able to like go out there to a show and be like, dude, this stuff was actually legitimately made for us. We're actually helping to rep his company with some of the stuff that we wear as well. And it's fun, be like, this is a one-of-a-kind thing that this guy crafted for us. So we know that our costumes and our look is something where it's unique. It's not the same old. I mean, I'm never going to fault somebody for wearing all black. I'm never going to fault somebody for the typical things you would expect to see out of a metal band, because, hey, that stuff looks cool. But, I always want to do things that are going to be a little bit different, and something where people, if they see it, they go, okay, that's Matt from Heirs of Isildur, or that's Matt and Steph from In Symmetry Creations. and know us just by the look. And it's kind of hard to do that if it's just black jeans and a black t-shirt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like I said, it's just like if you got a certain look, you will people will turn around and say, "Oh, that's such and such from such and such a band, or that's such and such person from such and such a company," type of thing. You can have a bit of fun with your look, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, you got to have fun with it. You got to have fun with it. In this day and age, especially with everything we've all been going through for the last year and a half, none of us need anything depressing. We all need stuff. We need stuff. One of the things that Steph and I say, one of our mantras when it comes to In Symmetry Creations, is we want to create characters that people can relate to and universes people want to escape into. And nobody out there wants to escape into a universe that's going to be more depressing than the one that they already live in pandemic times. So we really want to make sure that people can relate to the characters. They can escape into the comics or the music, the lyrics, and really just escape into it for a time and enjoy the universe that's been created for them and become a part of it.
Yeah. I like reading like a lot of like the fantasy books, especially one guy called Raymond E. Feist. He has created over like a vast universe type of thing, with like the Rift War and magic and elves and trolls, you name it, type of thing. It helps me to like basically escape the drudge of the day-to-day trap type of thing.
Yeah, and it's like, absolutely.
Yeah, so
for sure. That's exactly how we feel when it comes to writing. We want to escape and have fun into the things that we do, and we know that the people that read our comics or listen to our music want to be able to do the same thing, and so we feel a responsibility to them to make sure that we're giving them that. You know, if we're not giving them that, then we're not doing our job.
Yeah. It's well. I've read, like I said, I've read some of the bio for like In Symmetry and a little bit of bio for Heirs of Isildur, and it's like this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to get you on and actually talk about all this. It's to me anyway. If I find it interesting, other people might find it interesting, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate the fact that you have taken the time to reach out to me and listen to the stuff, play some of the stuff on your show the other day. I definitely appreciate it's exposing it to a whole new market, a whole new your whole group of people out there that may have never heard it, because with us being in Florida and California, you being across the pond over there in the UK, you know what I'm saying? You've got people that you can reach out to that we would have never even known to reach out to.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like I've got like I've tried to try and help bands, trying to help bands and musicians to get to open up to like a wider audience type of thing. So it basically ultimately everybody wins, so to speak. So
absolutely. And yeah, that's how we feel. There's no, we definitely subscribe to the audience of one theory, which says, it doesn't matter if you've got 5 people in your audience or 1,000 people in your audience. Every one of those people is a person that is giving up their time to, whether it's read your music or listen to you or talk to you at a show. And, you have to treat them all with the same respect, because they're all giving up the same 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, hour to invest in your thing. So treat them all the same way. So even in your chat the other day, people were asking questions, and that's great. To me, it's great when a new person happens upon the music. Hey, I've just heard you guys for the first time, and I want to talk about it. Sounds great. Let's do it, man. I'm game. Let's have fun with it.
Yeah, that's this is one of the reasons why I'm doing my show on Digital Evolution Radio. It's the people who come into the chat are so open-minded. They want to experience new things. They want to listen to new things. They want to You know what I mean? They want to like to find new stuff. They want to like you know what I mean? It's they will always ask, oh L, who's that? Who's this band? Or who do you recommend? Who do you think? And I will say, oh, if you listen to check out this particular band or that particular band or like type of thing. They're always asking questions, and I will say, yeah, check them out, check this band out, type of thing.
It's a way to do it, man. I really, people like us appreciate people like you.
Thank you. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it's like that's basically my mantra. That's my if I can help out at least one band to get one fan or what to get them to listen to one person to listen to their music, I've done my job, type of thing.
That's exactly right. I would definitely, if the more people like you that are out there, the better it's going to be for people like us.
Yeah, true. So, unless anybody's got any questions, looks like we haven't. I think that might be about it, unless you want to add something else.
Well, the only thing I'll say is, we just really appreciate you having me on here to represent Heirs of Isildur and Symmetry Creations. If you're somebody that wants to listen to the music, not only do we have the links in the chat, but you can go to any of the major streaming services like Amazon, Bandcamp, Spotify. Pretty much all the majors out there are going to have both albums on them. If you're somebody that's interested in the comics, and especially if you're a fan that's in the UK, we know shipping charges are absolutely absurd to ship something from the US to overseas. So we do have digital versions of everything that we do that are available, whether it's a PDF of the Crossroads Conundrum story arc of Tales from Nocturnia, or the most recent Heirs of Isildur Nightmare scenario. There are digital versions of everything that's out there that we can find ways to be able to get to you, so that way you're paying a lot less and you're not having to worry about paying £37 for a ridiculous shipping charge, just to get a single book. Like I said, just give us a chance, take a look at what we have going on, the comics, the music. Our thing is where steampunk, comics, and metal collide, and surely there is something in one of those three things, if you're listening to the show, that you'll probably get a hold of and you'll probably dig. Yeah. But like I said, reach out to us. Hope you have fun, and I really appreciate you, El, for listening to us and having me on the show, and hope to hear us on your show more in the future.
Oh yes, most definitely. You're going to be hearing a lot more of Heirs of Isildur on Project Metal Across the Pond.
That sounds most definitely.
Sounds good. So everything what the music, the comics, all the merch will be on your In Symmetry Creations website, which is
I put a little link down there in the chat. That's thetinyurl.com/insim shop, and that is the single shop that's got the Heirs shirts, the Heirs music, the comics, all of it are up there, right there on that shop.
Cool. So thank you so much, Matt, for coming on and talking about In Symmetry Creation and Heirs of Isildur. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. Have fun. I know it's late over there. Have fun with the last couple hours you have in your day.
Cheers. Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. Catch you later, guys.